What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got, honestly, really kind of annoying news. You see, yesterday I showed you an update to the One Piece TCG Banlist, and to be clear, it was an update worth having. The official website had gone and updated with reasonings as to exactly why they'd banned the cards, and as I explained yesterday, they went and updated, basically telling us that these bans were only in the West, not in Japan, and that they were subject to change. And I thought, you know what, the fact that we've got this extra information about why they're banned, the fact that they're English only and that's now confirmed, and the fact they are subject to change in the future, this is actually genuinely relevant. We should have a chat about this. So I made a video, it was all good, and then I went and picked my kids up from school and did the whole dad thing, and while I'm doing the whole dad thing, yeah, they announced they are, in fact, unbanning them. Which is funny, because I got some messages from people telling me they're definitely not going to unban them. That's not what Bandai does. And one particular message actually telling me I was harming the game by suggesting they might be unbanned in the future. Literally told me I was harming the game by suggesting they might be unbanned. Ironically, that message was sent after it was announced they are going to be unbanned on December the 8th. Why is December the 8th a relevant date? Well, that's the release date of OPO 5, Awakening of the New Era. So they're being banned for the remainder of the OPO 4 meta, and they are being unbanned when we get to the start of OPO 5. And you know what? Yeah, that kind of actually makes perfect sense to me. And I know some people have been asking, like, well, hang on a second, why, what's the point? Well, I'm going to be at a regional in Liverpool the weekend after next, the weekend of the 18th and 19th of November. If you're there, do come and say hello. And there are other tournaments going on, and essentially, rather than let us have the last month of, because it is exactly a month now till they get unbanned, rather than giving us one last month of tournaments with a format they're not happy with, they're basically saying, hey, don't worry about it. Let's have a month where we're a little bit easier, and then when OPO 5 comes out, we can switch things back. The announcement did go out. Weirdly, it was just a response to their tweet. It's like the 6th tweet on the thread, which is weird, but it says, thank you for your understanding, and we hope our community continues to enjoy the One Piece card game. This ban will be lifted on December the 8th, 2023, due to changes in the metagame with the release of OPO 5. Now, I will say, I'm assuming that also includes the restriction of Marco. I could be wrong. It specifically says this ban will be lifted in a response to an image of the 4 cards. I'm assuming that includes the restriction of OPO 3 Marco. I'm assuming that's the case. Cannot say for absolute certain, but I'm assuming that's what we're dealing with here, that essentially these are coming around. And you know what? Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of alright with this. Now, I know that some people are unhappy about this, but honestly, most of the people unhappy about this are people that unloaded, like their full art Nami without waiting to see what was going to happen. Because I'll show you the prices in a minute. It's been a wild swing for the price of some of these cards with the announcement they're going to be banned, and then the announcement that, oh wait, no, actually, you know what? No, they're not. Because OPO 1 Nami is actually really interesting. Remember, one of the special rares in OPO 5 is going to be OPO 1 Nami. So there is a fancy version of that card which is coming out in OPO 5. Not only that, but there is a reprint of OPO 1 Nami, which is coming in Starter Deck 10. That is official. It's already out over in Japan. It's been out for a while in Japan. So we've actually got 2 versions of that Nami card, which has been banned, which are releasing in English in the not too distant future. And it would be very strange if they essentially ban the card and then release 2 new versions of it. That would be weird. Don't worry about it, ladies and gentlemen. Both those versions of Nami are going to be legal and playable and all of that good stuff. So it seems like what is happening is that the 3 banned cards, let us say OPO 1 Nami, OPO 2 Curly Dedan, and the leader Edward Newgate, it seems that those bans are being reversed as of the release of OPO 5 on December the 8th. it would appear that the restriction of OPO3 Marco, and that's very important we distinguish, it looks like that is also being reversed on the same day. Cool. We basically got a month, finish out a few tournaments with those cards not around and Marco reduced to 1, and then we're back to normal with the release of OPO5. And that makes perfect sense, but it does lead us into a whole bunch of questions. So, one thing that we need to bear in mind here, this affects the new ban, the one I told you about the other day and the one on which I gave you an update yesterday. It does not, unless and until we are told something else, impact the previous bans and restrictions. So until we're told otherwise, Moby Dick and Kabaji are still banned, and remember they are the only bans which are actually worldwide. They are in Japan and in the West. As it stands at the moment, until we are told anything else, Moby Dick and Kabaji remain banned. The announcement was... and we haven't actually had a tweet or a post on the website about this. The website still says these bans may be reversed in the future. But the tweet was in response to a tweet about this new run of bans, so until we're told anything else, we have to assume that it only applies to the new bans, and it applies to all the new bans and the restriction of Marco. And we've also got the restrictions of OPO2 Edward Newgate, OPO2 Marco, and Radical Beam. We have to assume for the time being that those cards are still restricted to 1. We have, I don't believe, been told anything to the contrary. Again, everything we can see seems to suggest that they are reversing these new bans on December the 8th, but we've not been told anything about the old ones, so assume that all those old bans that have been in place for a little while now, assume that they are staying, so Red is not keeping the new nerf, but it is still keeping the old nerf. So we're not getting OPO2 Marco back to a 4 of. We're not getting Moby Dick. Bearing in mind that would make Newgate a lot better if we got those back. Now, one other question I've had a lot is what about Worlds? We know we're heading into the One Piece World Championships at the beginning of March. What's going on with that? And the answer is we've not been told. We have not been given any information about what is happening with the World Championships of the One Piece TCG, because obviously, as it stands at the moment, we have a very slightly different format to Japan. And there's two ways it's different. Firstly, we have gone and restricted those free cards, Newgate, Marco, and Radical Beam. Japan have not restricted those cards. We have, they haven't. But also, by the time we get round to March, we are going to be in a different format. The unofficial release date we have for Wings of the Captain as it stands at the moment, that is OPO6, is the 15th of March. That is a distributor listing. It's likely to be right, but as I always tell you, it's not confirmed until it's on the official website. Yeah, that's 2 weeks after Worlds. So we are not going to have OPO6. Japan is going to have OPO6. Now, we have not been given, as far as I'm aware, and if I'm incorrect about this, please correct me in the comment section. As far as I'm aware, we've not been told what the format for Worlds is going to be. But obviously, we all have to play in the same format. That seems pretty relevant. I can't tell you what they're going to do, but I can tell you what Pokemon do, and I can tell you what makes sense. Now, in Pokemon, what they do is they take the Western format. Now, there are two reasons why it makes sense for Pokemon to use the Western format. Only one of which I believe definitely applies to One Piece. And that is the fact everybody has the cards that are out in the West. Not everybody has the cards that are out in Japan. So by the time Worlds comes around, our most recent set is going to be OPO5. Japan's got OPO5, we've got OPO5. If we take the Japanese format, they've got OPO6. We don't. The cards literally don't exist in English at that point. So how can we can't, well, we generally in tournaments, we're not allowed to mix languages in decks. I suppose they can allow that, but that just creates a whole heap of new problems, card stock, etc. So basically, it makes no real sense to have the Japanese format, because everybody has access to the Western format, not everybody has access to the Japanese format. Yes, that does mean they include the restrictions. Now, they could do a weird hybrid format where we don't include sets that are out in Japan but not in English, but we don't use the English restrictions, we have the Japanese restrictions. That would be weird and all over the place, but that would technically be an answer. We could do that. I don't think they would, but that is a possibility. Incidentally, the other reason for Pokemon is that Pokemon has TPC, the Pokemon Company, which runs things in Asia, and TPCI, the Pokemon Company International, that runs the game everywhere else. And Worlds is a TPCI event, so obviously it makes sense to use the TPCI format. I don't know what the deal is with Bandai and Worlds and all of that. I don't know if it's handled by the Japanese side or the Western side. I have no idea how that breaks down, but I feel very confident predicting, and let's be clear, it is a prediction, but I feel very confident predicting we're just going to use the Western format. That is to say, our restrictions will be in effect, and OP06 will not be legal. Because I cannot imagine a world in which they allow a set, which is out in Japan but not out in the West, to be legal for World Championships where people from all over the world are competing. That makes no sense. That is just a prediction, but it's a question a lot of people have asked me over the past few days, so I figured it was worth getting a bit of a discussion in here. So, the main takeaway here is this. These new bans and restrictions, that is to say the restriction on OP03 Marco, and the outright banning of Newgate, Nami, and Curly Dadan, is only lasting until the 8th of December, at which point it's being turned around. And it's because of the OP05 meta. Essentially, Bandai have had a look at what's likely to happen with OP05 and gone, yeah, we're cool. Like, Luffy is a great deck in OP05, and Nell is a very relevant deck. Sakazuki is a very good deck in OP05. If we look at the results coming out of Japan, we are not seeing, on other Asian territories, we are not seeing Newgate dominating like it has done over here recently. Red is not the dominant colour in Asia like it is over here, and therefore when OP05 comes out, it's not likely to be so much of a problem. For me personally, I like the Bandai keeping an eye on this. I like the Bandai turned around and went, you know what? We've got a bunch of tournaments coming up before OP05 comes out. It's all getting a little bit stale. Now, I know there are problems for a whole bunch of people with this. I know that some people don't have the money to go and make multiple decks, don't have the time to test multiple decks. So when you've got a deck that you've spent money on and you've been testing, and you're getting ready for a tournament, Liverpool, like I told you, is in less than 2 weeks, and then a ban drops and completely kills your deck you've bought and you've been testing and working on, yeah, I know that is actually super annoying, and I have a lot of sympathy for everybody in that situation. I absolutely do. For me, obviously, you guys know that I play the game, but I'm more focused on covering the game and analysing the game and casting, and I understand that for me, that makes these bans super interesting, and I'm more than willing to pivot deck choice, because for me, that's not my main focus. Although I love playing the game, don't get me wrong. You know my main focus is content and casting and all of that. I've made that pretty clear. So I know I'm not coming from the same angle here as somebody who tests one deck fantastically and spends all their time testing that deck and then finds out like a fortnight before a big tournament that it's no longer legal. So I have a lot of sympathy, I promise you. But I've played card games in the past where the company running the game have completely ignored it, and it's turned into a stale one-deck meta, and that is not fun. So the fact that Bandai are watching this, I do think is a good thing. I did mention earlier that I'd tell you about the prices. Over on TCG Player, look at this graph for OP01 Nami. Look at what happened when the ban dropped and then the ban was reversed. It dropped from 190 to 165 and then straight back up to 175. But if we have a look at the sales history, you can spot when the ban got reversed. Because we've got a bunch of sales sitting there around the 160 mark, and then all of a sudden they're straight back over 200. Yes, I know there's one that sold for 500. I have no idea what's going on with that one. I mean, I'm sure it's a pre-errata one, but I don't know. That seems iffy. That's way too high. I don't know what's going on with that one, I'll be honest with you. Outside of that, you can see what's happening here. That was pretty stark, basically. This was pretty big. And I know some people did lose out on that. Some people won, of course, as many people won as got left out. So, again, sympathy for anyone that was caught in that situation. It was not ideal. For what it's worth, the leader Newgate, we see a similar kind of thing. The graph isn't actually showing that it's bounced back yet. It just shows a pretty steep drop. But you'll also notice here, if we have a look at the sales, there are a bunch of sales that are all going on for around about the $70, $75 mark. And then the band gets reversed and we're straight back up to 95 again. So we saw a same thing happen with Nami and with Newgate, although the graph isn't quite reflected on TCG Player for Newgate yet. That is the risk with cards. You are always speculating about value, so sympathy, but unfortunately this is the kind of thing that can happen. Cards can be banned at any point, bans can be reversed at any point. And I saw a whole bunch of people telling me, Bandai don't reverse bans, it's not going to happen. Well, we do now have clear evidence that actually Bandai sometimes do. Alright, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me if you've got any tournaments being impacted in the next month. Tell me how you think OPO Fire is going to affect the meta. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far, the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.